Hi, Farmer Carey. Spring seems really long around this place here. Sometimes it starts in February and goes all the way to June. How do we know what to plant and when with such different temperatures?
Mr. Lavasser, that is such a great question because it's kind of confusing our long spring. We'll have little buds in February, but things are still coming out in June, and then it gets cold. It gets to be like January. So how do we know what to plant when? It's now April 20th, and it's a perfect question for right now. There are two main categories of plants: cool weather crops and warm weather crops. And this time of year is ideal for putting in your cool weather crops. And those are plants like kale is perfect. We have lettuce growing in the ground. Peas we planted earlier. So now it's cool weather and we're planting our cool weather crops. When can we plant things like tomatoes and cucumbers and squash? Those are warm weather crops. They like it warmer. When the temperatures are below 55, they're not that happy. You can make them grow with heroic efforts, and if you've planted your tomatoes and your cucumbers already, don't worry, but try to keep them a little warm, because at night they're going to be a little cold and they might not look so good. It's always best to wait until May to plant those warm weather crops if you can. Now, warm weather crops include your tomatoes, your cucumbers, even your beans prefer to be planted in May. We're going to go show you some of the tomatoes that we have growing for you. When we give you starts, we're going to give you starts that are ready to plant at the right time. That's why our tomatoes are only this big right now, because we're going to be giving them to you in May to plant. Same with our squash and cucumbers. So let's go see the tomatoes we're growing for you. We have hundreds of tomato plants growing for both ourselves at the farm and for the community. And we just potted them on. They were little soil blocks, and now we have them in 4-inch pots. See, they're just little babies, but you know what? They don't need to be big right now because it's April. And if we put them outside, they might get a little cold. I am really curious, since a lot of people may have started tomatoes right now, if you've put them out, how are they doing? Have they turned a little purple? Are they looking a little cold? You know what? If you put your tomato plants out too early, don't worry. They're just going to look at you for about a month until the weather gets warmer, and then they'll start to grow. So just relax, let your tomatoes sit there, and know that when the weather gets warmer, your tomatoes are going to grow. But we'll have tomatoes for you that we will deliver in the latter part of May, right about the time it's going to get warm enough for you to have them be happy. Okay, they'll be a lot bigger by that time. So these are just a few that we have. We have, as I said, about several hundred tomatoes for everybody. And we're going to have cucumbers and winter squash. Those are warm weather crops. They are best grown with starts. Now, your beans, like your green beans and your scarlet runner beans, those you plant in mid-May. Try not to put your beans in right now. Even though the weather looks warm, the soil is still cold, and beans need warmer temperatures to grow. Okay, it's always better to wait. Sometimes the seeds you plant or the starts you plant in cooler weathers, they just sit there. And the ones that you plant later, they grow, and then they're all the same size. So might as well plant them when they're happy, when it's warmer. So that's warm weather crops. We've showed you the cool weather crops. And how do you know what's a cool weather crop or a warm weather crop? Well, you look it up. You can Google it. You can look in the seed catalog. You can look online to planting calendars. We'll send something out to you on our newsletter. You can ask me questions. So you just have to ask and explore and do research, and you'll find out what the cool weather crops are and the warm weather crops, and what time that the vegetables like to be planted the best. That's learning about all the plants you're planting. So did that answer your question, Mr. Lavasser?
You did. Thank you very much, Farmer Carey.
All right. Well, Here's our future tomatoes. Yum, yum. These are cherry tomatoes. Lots of sun golds.